Interior, warehouse, nighttime. A single light bulb sways above a man handcuffed to a chair. His head hung unnaturally low for a man still breathing. Dried blood and sweat line his brow. His face is swollen from an entire boxing match worth of punches. His shirt is torn to shreds. His pants are corduroys, crystalline stiff from piss. Two men in suits tower over him. One lights a cigarette and takes a drag.
You know all this could be over, right? No more cold, damp warehouse, no more torture, no more having little bits of your food taken off your plate when you look the other way.
Look out there, you have a life out there. A life that is waiting for you, and all you have to do is tell us what we need to know, and you'll never see us or those piss-stained corduroys of yours again.
The prisoner begins to laugh.
I think he's lost it. I told you to back off on that car battery ball stuff.
Why you laughing, huh? What's so funny?
The prisoner lifts his head to meet the eyes of the agents. It's Patrick. It's me. I gotta do 2 roles. I'm just laughing because I'd rather die 1,000 deaths than live in a world where I say dick shit to you dirty elitist Hollywood deep state agents.
Oh, really? Is that so, huh?
The Hollywood deep state agent takes Patrick's hand and puts his cigarette out in his palm. You bastards. You're gonna pay.
Is that so? Because really, by the looks of things, the ones being paid to be here is us. We don't have anything else to do. You see, we have a truckloads of car batteries ready to be hooked up to those giant nuts of yours.
Huge nuts.
And we're not afraid to do what we have to do to get you to talk. Tell us what you know, and you're free to go.
The dirt I have on them, the studios, the lawyers, the execs. You two have no idea what you're in for. You think this ends with me? The truth is a beautiful thing. It finds a way.
We didn't want it to come to this, but...
Bring him out.
I already told you fellas, pissing my pants is kinda my thing. Just then we hear screams and pounding from a crate. Agent Y wheels it over to Patrick. The crate is wrapped in chains and is labeled Fred. What the fuck is this?
You're about to find out.
The agents take a crowbar to the front of the crate. The walls collapse to the sides as the dust settles. Shackled in chains stands drop-dead Fred. Truly the worst possible character to ever be put on camera. Honestly worse than Rosie O'Donnell playing a woman with autism. Drop-dead Fred unleashes a scream at Patrick, covering him in chunks of snot and spit. Oh, no, please, anything but this, please.
You asked for it. Loosen the chains.
Whoa, are you sure about this? I mean, he's close enough.
Drop-dead Fred lets out another blood-curdling scream. Agent X goes to loosen the chains, but trips and falls onto Drop-dead Fred. Within seconds, Drop-dead Fred has eaten his entire face. Agent Y grabs his gun and begins to shoot at Drop-dead Fred.
Fucker.
The bullets hit Fred's chains, freeing him from capture. Fred lunges at Agent Y and eats his entire face as well. Patrick frantically tries to wiggle his chair out of sight. Fred drops the agent's body to the floor and begins walking towards him, blood dripping from his hands and chin. Patrick looks to the ceiling as he closes his eyes and accepts his fate. He leaks out one final tiny piss. He knew his corduroys would thank him, if they could, for one last piss. He opens his eyes. William drops from the rafters. He's accompanied by Gary Busey.
Hey, Freddy boy!
William tosses a handful of charms and teeth over to Drop-dead Fred. He recognizes them as other imaginary friends that he loves. These are the teeth of his family. Now blinded by rage, Fred runs after Will. But just then, with a Bowie knife in hand, Gary Busey latches onto Fred, stabbing him in the neck repeatedly until he succumbs to the onslaught and falls to the floor. Gary Busey?
You're damn right it is. Me and Busey, man. Wow, what a ride. If it wasn't for him, I don't know if we would have ever found you, Pat.
William grabs the handcuff keys from the mauled corpse of Agent Y and frees Pat. Oh, Will, you saved me.
I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner.
Gary Busey heads over to Patrick and Will.
Come on, Busey. Let's get out of here.
Just then, Fred, now a bleeding, mangled beast, impales Busey through his chest, ripping his heart out and raising it to the air, screaming. William cries in anguish as he unloads every bullet he has on drop-dead Fred. Drop-dead Fred's body, now unrecognizable. 20 different pieces of him across the floor. Gary Busey's corpse lies limp in William's arms. Ooh, damn, he's freaking dead, huh?
Yeah. Come on. Let's go.
Will, where even are we?
Welcome to Hollywood.
Slender Man. Sasquatch. Nessie.
Like Casper the Ghost.
Casper the Ghost. What are all these guys have in common? Well, they're imaginary friends. And that's what this episode's all about. We're doing Drop Dead Fred, one of Hollywood's most famous imaginary guys. This movie is incredible. It kind of, for me, it hits really, really close to home because I had an abusive, horrible imaginary friend named Jerdal.
Yes, he did.
He was like kind of like a frog warrior. He had a shield and a spear.
But he
And
did
he wore
have
a loincloth.
PTSD.
And he was slimy. And he would poke me so I couldn't go to sleep. Just stand at the foot of my bed and poke me.
Yeah. Terrible. The things that Patrick has shared with me about him is absolutely awful. I would never wish that on my worst enemy.
Jerdal the frog, my doctor said Jerdal the frog set me back 7-8 years. I'm definitely a slow, what's that called? I'm a slow learner. What is it?
I'm gonna let you
Slow
fill in the
dev-
blanks
dev-
because I don't want to put anything on you.
When you don't hit
Yeah.
puberty on time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got like a late start or something like that.
I'm a late bloomer
Late bloomer. That's what it is.
because of Girdle the frog. Girdle the
Well-
frog warrior.
Yeah, joke's on the doc now and on Girdle because look at your beard. It's a very healthy beard you have. You should be very
Oh,
proud
I'm
of
good
your
now.
puberty. Yeah.
I'm good now. I am good now.
We
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, Patrick and I, for we put off doing this movie because not only is it a beloved movie of ours, but it also hits very close to home for Patrick. And, we're not trying to bring up any bad feelings when we're doing a passion project. But we both agreed that this movie is a very key component to our mission, which is to bring light to the very corrupt Hollywood elitist deep state. And this movie happens to be one of the magic keys in explaining to all of our listeners out there who and what and why the Hollywood elitist deep state exists.
Yeah, and when Will said, "We're watching Drop Dead Fred, do you need a trigger warning?" And I said, Do
TW.
bazookas have triggers? Because this
Yes, they
movie
do.
blows. This movie is so hard to watch for me. Drop Dead Fred is scary.
Yeah.
It's kind of. This is when the Hollywood elitist deep state really got into experimenting with psychological warfare. Similar to what we experienced with Time Cop, they're kind of showing their hand a bit with what kind of these demons that they can inject into your brain. And it's only speculation, but part of me thinks that Girdle the Frog was a psyop implanted in my brain. I can't totally commit to that.
Yeah,
That's speculation.
It's a rough road for Patrick to go down. But Pat, I just want to say that I appreciate you, and I've never seen you put work into those corduroys like you did for this movie. Have they dried out yet? Because good grief,
No.
you're going nuts.
No. No.
Yeah, I know those corduroys were wetter than the Amazon River. Within honestly the first
we
5
were
minutes of this film.
texting. We were texting yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna have to cord up for this one, and thank God you gave me the advice to hydrate. So I was drinking a lot of milks yesterday, all sorts of
Yeah.
different milks.
Multiple. That's good. Yeah. We're big promoters of milk. It's great for your calcium levels. And
Not a lot of people know this.
Yeah.
Calcium is an electrolyte.
Yeah, it's one of the lesser known ones. Brands like Gatorade, they want to like trick you into thinking that like electrolytes are sodium and potassium. There's a lot. There's an entire periodic table of electrolytes. All right.
And sweetie, calcium's one of them.
That's right. So I'm glad you're taking care of yourself, Pat, but boy, oh boy, I was loving those TikToks you were sending me of what you were doing to those corduroys. You got to start
Yeah.
an OnlyFans page for that.
With me and my cords. A boy and
You
his
really-
cords.
Yeah, you really got to start an OnlyFans for you and those cords, because I know people that pay a premium to witness what I witnessed. I mean, good grief, I couldn't even stomach dinner after that.
Yeah, I mean, I keep a private account on TikTok. It's only for my close friends. But I did have a romantic dinner with my cords. I needed kind of a treat yourself kind of evening,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I put on the Adele 21 and I
Beautiful
had
album.
dinner with my cords. And then I took some TikToks of us dancing around the dining room. And, well, I don't want to go any further. Those are for my friends. And
Just
I
the best way to explain it to listeners out there is the rash on this man's legs when everything was all said and done was like as if he got in a fist fight with Poison Ivy.
the doctor
Right.
says it's a leisure rash. Don't worry about it. He
God.
says I can have it if I want it.
And he wants
It's
it.
not going to hurt me.
So this movie's really interesting, Pat, because this is where it all begins. This is a movie that was promoted as a comedy, but had a dramatic and horror director,
Ugh.
had a drama and horror writing team, and had some of the best dramatic actors of their time. And
Not to mention the ugliest man in the world
yeah.
playing Drop Dead Fred. I can't even look at him. Will, you were
Rest in
there
peace.
in the piss cord while we watched this? I had my hand over my eyes.
Yeah. Rick Mayall
let's-
played Drop Dead Fred, and here's the thing: is you wouldn't make a comedy out of Friday the 13th, or what we're going to begin to talk about with New Line Cinema, Nightmare on Elm Street. You wouldn't make Freddy Krueger funny, but that's exactly what happened to this movie. A movie that was supposed to be the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest of its own time. A very good representation for people with abusive parents, people that are survivors, mental illness, became truly in the editing bay, became a slapstick film. But in every single interview with both writers, with the directors, with even the actors who were playing on set, were absolutely aghast by how this movie came out because of what its original intention was. This is not a comedy. And even when you watch it today, you have to look at it through the eyes of, I have a narcissistic parent, I'm a survivor, and these are my coping mechanisms, and
I can
developed...
live without Girdle the Frog Warrior.
Yeah. But no, this movie was promoted to a mass audience.
I can sleep at night.
This is
a
really funny movie.
His slime is not on the bathroom floor. He did not get his frog slime on the bathroom floor. That is just my piss. There is no frog warrior in the bathtub.
Yeah.
He is a figment. He is a figment.
So just like Patrick...
I'm gonna kind of... this movie kind of is triggering some things. I feel like I might be relapsing a little bit.
Patrick, you gotta come back here. You gotta come back. All right? Because Girdle doesn't exist anymore. Girdle was just a figment of your imagination.
He's gone.
For years of my life, I was haunted by the film Don't Look Under the Bed, a Disney Channel movie about the boogeyman formed by the long and forgotten, unkept for, placed under the bed in the imagination, imaginary best friend. The imaginary best friend, neglected, becomes the boogeyman. And it wasn't until confronted that he would leave. Well, I was scared, absolutely shitless, of the boogeyman. And this is from the ages of 10 all the way until 22. And it wasn't until I did P90X with Tony Horton when I was 22 years old that I realized that, you know what? I did P90X. It's a 90-day fitness program coached by the absolute incredible man, Tony Horton. It sets you through, I won't get into all the details, but basically it sets you through a 90-day process to go from wherever you're at, whether you're on the couch or whether you have some athletic ability, to fully fit. And so once I completed P90X, I said, you know what? I can do P90X. I could beat the boogeyman's ass. I, at this point, have lost my virginity. I can beat the boogeyman's ass. And that is what I was no longer scared of the boogeyman at the age of 22 and I guess almost 23. It was like 22 and 9 months. But so, Pat, this happens to a lot of people.
Was that an ad read?
No, it wasn't an ad read. I'm just saying that's what happened in my life. P90X changed my life forever.
Well, working out wouldn't get rid of the frog warrior that lives
if you knew
at
that
the
you could
foot of my bed.
If you knew that you could beat Girdle's ass, if you knew that you could beat that frog warrior's ass, wouldn't you be less scared of him?
Where were you when I said that he had a shield and a spear? Are you crazy?
I'm going to be quite honest with you. Your tactical experience and the way that you can handle an AR is
This is a fantastical beast, Will. I don't have any training in this sort of field. I don't know how to battle these sort of creatures.
I've just seen how good of a shot you are from over 300 yards away with nothing short of a 9mm. All right? I've seen what you can do in battle, and I feel like Girdle used to have a grip on you mentally as a child, and you've gone through a level of training that so many people wouldn't possibly even dream of, because
I
it's
appreciate
nightmare.
that.
Yeah.
And if I was properly equipped, yeah, maybe I could go toe to toe with this guy. But I don't know the rules of engagement back where he's from, Frogtopia. I don't know if him poking me in my sleep is just like a custom that's nice to him. I don't know. But to me it's torture, and I've had to work through a lot of this stuff. And for you to tell me that just doing P90X is going to get rid of my frog demon,
I wasn't saying
I
that.
don't.
I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that in my experience, I was very scared of the boogeyman because of a series of imaginary friend sort of things. I mean, you know me. I still sleep with my stuffed animal. I'm married. I still sleep with my stuffed animal, Spanky. We are tight. Okay?
I'm sorry, Will, but this is kind of just like a white guy telling a black guy he understands.
You're right. You are absolutely right. And I'm in the wrong about that. I forgot that is definitely what I'm doing here.
I'm the black guy in this case, and you're
Yeah.
the white guy.
You're right. You're right. And you know what?
You don't know what
time
it's like to
just
have
listen.
an abusive... Yes, I understand. I'm afraid of the boogeyman too. I get that, but you don't have an abusive childhood imaginary friend that's tortured you for years, okay? So in this case, I'm the black guy.
Yeah. I totally didn't. You know what? You're so right about that. And I should have known, because I have read White Fragility a couple times now, that's exactly what I was doing. And yeah, it's just time to shut up and listen. So back to
Thank you.
Drop Dead Fred. This movie as is, don't get us wrong, this movie as is perfect. And I will say from a wholehearted standpoint that this movie has and always will be my favorite movie of all time.
I was going to ask. I thought it would be. You are into these heavy movies.
Yeah. But this is a movie to dissect the script on. This is a movie to, it leaves you wanting more. And every time I watch it, and I know you felt the same way about this, Pat, but every time you watch it, you're left with a different interpretation.
Yeah. And I learned a lot through this. I mean, I've always been a little radical, you know? I was always just a little bit of a revolutionary.
To say the least.
In middle school, I would wear my Che Guevara shirt every day to school.
To say the least.
But to see this podcast has emboldened me, and I kind of have a new lens in which I walk through life with because of the work we've done here on this podcast, and I hope the listeners feel the same way. But rewatching this movie, I hadn't watched it for a while because I do love this movie. It's just hard for me to watch. I hope you guys understand that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Girdle
how
used to
deep
make
this thing went.
Patrick masturbate all over the I Spy books in his middle school library.
You
He would-
spy that? Do you know what that is? Do you spy that?
Yeah.
Ribbit.
Girdle used to do terrible things to Patrick, including making him ejaculate all over the I Spy books in his middle school library. During class.
No.
This isn't off hours, it's middle school. He's in class, and it's a small library.
I got grounded.
He was caught. He had in-school
They
suspension.
didn't let me go to the book fair.
Did not get to go to Scholastic Book Fair. And what did Girdle make you do in in-school suspension?
He made me throw my poop at the weird kid.
That's right. Girdle, Pat, you know what? Like, truly, Girdle was... And I say was because, you know what? He no longer has this power over you, and I do mean that.
I
But
locked him
Girdle?
away in my mind palace. He is gone. He has no power over me. I know that he is a projection of my biggest weaknesses and insecurities, and he has no power over me. I am an adult man. And anyway, let's get back to the movie. This movie was
just to make this
initially-
clear for the listeners.
No.
The lab desks that you would have in biology class, in Patrick's 7th grade biology class, he was sitting in the back, and every time they would watch a movie with the lights off, Girdle would make Patrick masturbate and ejaculate all over the under. And Patrick would have to take a picture with a disposable camera. And I've seen the pictures, and this biology desk, the underside of this biology desk is caked like a cinnamon roll. I'm talking like Cinnabon level amount of like icing that is on this. And you'd be like, holy smokes, this guy's throwing off, he's firing off ropes underneath this table. And it's all because Girdle would make him do it. It's all right, Pat. Girdle doesn't exist anymore. You've locked him away in your mind palace, where he can masturbate just all by himself. Doesn't have anything to do with you.
I can't even look at a frog. I'll throw it into the ocean if I see a frog.
I've seen Patrick
throw it
just
into this-
throw them in the ocean.
I throw frogs in the ocean. Ugh. He was so slimy.
Yeah. So back to this
back
movie.
to the...
Yeah, back to the film.
So this movie was initially written, like you said, as a drama. I mean, all systems go. This was going to be a drama. And a beautiful one at that, about triumphing over your mental illness. And when did this movie come out?
1991.
People weren't talking. People weren't talking about this stuff back then.
No, they weren't.
But through our resources, we do have a direct line with Anonymous. We got some insider info on there's these guys, these deep state agents, they call themselves Best Boy Grips. And they infiltrate these movie sets, and they slowly, parasitically change the way the movie is made. So they're the ones that physically got in there and turned this movie into a comedy movie. And they also took a lot of the ideas and took them to the CIA to make psyops, which I do think may be where Girdle came from.
Truly, in every single movie, watch the credits. People want to get up and they want to leave. Look at the credits, and in every single movie, you'll see Best Boy. You will see Best Boy. And that right there is an indication of the Hollywood Elitist Deep State stamp of approval, saying this movie came out and was made the exact way we wanted it to.
It's a reference to the Proud Boys, too. So it's just them flicking their noses at us, knowing we can't do anything about it. It's the Best Boy.
Yep.
Proud Boys. We're Proud Boys. Here's our Best Boy.
Best Boys and Proud
It's
Boys
disgusting.
are hand in hand. And you know what? We're not going to stand for it. Because the more and more we allow these Best Boys on films, the more and more, we're going to be losing our touch with humanity itself. I don't know about you, but
We're going to lose our grip.
Yeah, we're going to lose our grip. That's so clever. Pat, that's so clever. That was really good.
Thanks. I feel like I've been on this episode.
Yeah. But this movie goes deeper into the Hollywood Elitist Deep State, and this is why. We've all heard of, Pat and I have spent many nights up until, till the sun rises, on a bunch of Alpha Brain and wine, just talking about New Line Cinema.
Yeah.
The production studio that has really made all of the greats, from movies we've covered like Garbage Pail Kids to classics like Ninja Turtles, The Ninja Mission, Critters, and of course, Drop Dead Fred.
Classico. These guys are behind a lot of the stuff.
Especially in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And emphasis on early 90s. Because what seemed to happen towards You know, the 80s was a bunch of hits. 1990 was a bunch of hits. But what began to happen, and Patrick is such a genius because he was really the one that sort of cracked the code on this. But you start to see a pattern of these movies, right? Where you're finding, okay, I see a lot of, you know, the connection between Garbage Pail Kids, Critters, Drop Dead Fred, even Ninja Turtles, Nightmare on Elm Street, another New Line classic. The connection between all of these is this sort of unspoken rule of practical effects. Exactly. And right when you get to, you know, just like how you can identify an A24 movie, just like you can identify a Fox Searchlight independent film, you know, just like Bukowski, just like all of the greats.
Yes.
And
absolutely. Give me one still from any one of their movies, I'm gonna know it's a New Line.
It's true. New Line truly had their hands on the pulse of art, of true filmmaking, and bringing realistic concepts to a fantasy world. It's that simple.
Well said. Yeah,
and
very Kafka-esque.
Very Kafka-esque. And you know what? In 1994, right when New Line Cinema has it all, it's years now since they're on the third Ninja Turtle movie, which is making waves, breaking records. They've released Drop Dead Fred, and they just on almost a complete random whim get bought out by Turner Broadcasting Company.
Dun dun, shh, dun 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 dun, shh, dun dun, shh, dun 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 dun, shh.
This is where things get a little scary, isn't it, Pat?
What happens next, Bill?
New Line Cinema is no longer making the movies that they were known to make. No longer are we seeing the action films, the practical effects. No longer are we seeing the cult classic films. And certainly no more Ninja Turtles. We're seeing really
Where did our turtles go?
Really big budget movies, including
maybe if I had another Ninja Turtle to fight off my Frog Warrior, my childhood would have been a little better.
I think absolutely. If you think about Ninja Turtles versus Battletoads, and I know toads are bigger than frogs, but that's kind of a good comparison. If you compare the Ninja Turtles to Battletoads, Ninja Turtles will kick the Battletoads' ass literally every single time. There is no question. Even the video games are more fun to play. And Battletoads didn't even have a TV show. So
take that, Girdle. Battletoads didn't even have a TV show. Game was too hard for kids to play. No one liked it. TMNT is an institution. Get over it. You lost.
Done. See? You silence Girdle so easily. When you're talking about an arsenal of weaponry that can face some sort of fantasy monster that's making you ejaculate onto all over your middle school, it sounds to me like you're very well equipped, Pat. You're very well equipped.
And yet, he persisted.
You guys remember all of those foam dodgeballs that would somehow always have a hole in them?
No.
Well, there's a reason.
Not this one.
Patrick,
not this.
Girdle would make Patrick
not this one. Well, no.
Have sex with every single one of these dodgeballs and ejaculate into these dodgeballs. Isn't that messed up?
Rabbit. No.
Absolutely awful.
Mr. Plate, I'm sorry. I cummed in the balls. Oh.
It's not your fault, Pat. All Girdle. And that's what this movie hammers into the entire time, is that people, just because they can't see these imaginary friends, they want to hold these people who are victims accountable for their actions, when in all reality, it's a whole nother being that's doing this, right?
You ever had to explain to your mom why you have to buy new I Spy books for the library? Because you cummed in them?
No, I never had to do that. But I'm sure it was a very hard conversation, Pat.
Girl didn't help.
But I know that your mom, you had a much better relationship with your mom than the character Elizabeth did with her mom, Polly, in this movie. Isn't that right, Pat? What would your
Yes,
mom
my
say
mom is a
about
saint.
Girdle?
My mom said, if it's the last thing I do on this, with my last dying breath, I will chop this fucking frog's head off with my own karate chop. And I said, Mom, I didn't know you had a karate chop that sharp. And she said, well, I'm gonna get it that sharp. And she sharpened her hand for the next year, just for me, to chop off Girdle's head.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's a good mom. You know, despite
Unlike
the
this
amount of
bitch mom.
times that, yeah, exactly. And I just want to say that, you know, from the overhead projectors that you messed up, to the computer labs that you messed up, to the wood shop equipment you messed up, like that bandsaw, you broke like a $10,000 bandsaw because of Girdle. And I just think that, you know, Girdle had you running around that middle school like a bandit, just firing off ropes in every crook and crevice you possibly could get into. And I just want to say that I'm, you know, not only...
There's a whole custodial staff in the loony bin because of me.
Still?
Yeah.
And it's been like 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, we went far.
Wow.
Girdle got... I don't want to go into it on here, but let's just say they got accused of raping me.
Girdle. Girdle. You see, we want to blame and, you know, victimize. Look, when a child has an imaginary friend that is as abusive as Girdle or Drop Dead Fred, they need to be taken seriously. And, you know, this movie is supposed to be a message for that, but the way that critics reviewed it, I mean, Gene Siskel, this isn't one of our critics we're going to talk about because Gene Siskel, we already know he's never going to say anything honest. Gene Siskel right off the bat says, this is easily one of the worst films I've ever seen. And that was posted in the Chicago
crazy.
Tribune. Exactly.
That is
Just
crazy.
absolutely disgusting. So back to our Turner Broadcast Company, which, you know, like, okay, Pat, your research on this was incredible. And I was like, oh, wow. So you're telling me that Turner Broadcast Company is the Hollywood elitist deep state. And you were like, nah, we need to dig deeper. We need to dig deeper. And we were on a lot of alpha brain at that point. Let me tell you. We were on a lot of our brains were growing. It felt incredible.
I didn't know my pupils could get that big.
When you're able to see so well in the dark, your pupils are going to get bigger and bigger. Because we were in pitch black.
Voldemort eyes.
Yeah, we were in pitch black darkness. It was awesome. Never seen stars like that in my life. And we were in a basement. So, put two and two together.
X-ray vision.
Yeah, what? So, obviously, New Line Cinema is still around today. They still exist. Are they putting out good movies? Well, according to Turner Broadcast Company, no. Because later on, Turner Broadcast Company was bought out because due to bankruptcy by the one and only, and we've talked about them before, and I'm sure this won't be the last time, the Warner Brothers.
When you see the Warner Brothers coming, Warner Brother. These guys. Speaking of guys with a little
Holy
frog, I don't trust these guys. They got the Warner Brother frog. He probably is just as vicious as Girdle. I don't trust any of these freaks, okay? They make my skin boil. What is it?
Yeah, they make my skin boil.
They make my skin have boils.
Yeah. You know, it's so hard, just like finding out about Bill Cosby. It's so hard
What
to
did
come
he
to
do?
terms. He
What did Bill Cosby do?
He raped women. Pat,
What?
you know this about Bill Cosby, don't you?
I didn't know that.
Oh no.
What?
I didn't want to be the one to break it to you. Oh no.
No.
Pat, yes, Bill Cosby.
I wanted to do a Bill Cosby movie this season.
Now, Bill Cosby deserves the death sentence for what he's done, Pat. Bill Cosby is a monster. Dr. Huxtable was popping pills and roofies into dozens of women's drinks and having his way with them.
Next you're gonna tell
while
me
they were-
Next you're gonna tell me that Jerry Seinfeld dates underage girls.
Well, I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough alpha brain in me to even start on that.
Yeah. Sorry, we've been on Alpha Brain for about 2 months straight now, is it?
You can only handle. Turns out, it's really hard on your kidneys.
Yeah. So, we're pretty sluggish these days. We're gonna take a break from the Alpha Brain for maybe just a couple days.
We were partying a little too hard with our last lawyer, who is, I guess, still currently could be our lawyer. I don't quite know.
I think he's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, we're up in the air with Charlie Korsmo of Hook fame.
He has been recovering alcoholic for,
Which we didn't know. We didn't know.
I knew. I did know. He's a recovering alcoholic. He's been recovering alcoholic for 5 years now. And we were having fun with him. We were
Pat,
out.
do you remember? Pat, just really fast before we continue, because do you remember what Paul said to say that we didn't know?
I mean, but I want to be honest with the listeners. Isn't that what this is all about?
Oh, yeah. You're
Paul
right.
understand. This was before he was even our lawyer. We haven't even gotten to Paul yet.
Yeah.
This was before you. This isn't his jurisdiction, right?
Okay. You're right. No, you're right. We owe our listeners transparency, and we're going to give it to you. So, yeah, we knew Charlie has a big AA plaque in his office. So we knew right away. It was like one of our first conversation pieces because it's a pretty nice looking trophy, if you ask me.
And I'm a prankster. Everyone knows that. And to Will's credit,
He's
when we were
so
leaving his
funny.
office that first day, I was like, wouldn't it be so funny if I poured some vodka into his cup? And you were like, no way, no way.
I know, but I was still
knew you thought it was
giggling.
fun.
Yeah, I was giggling.
Let's just say you weren't going to help me, but you weren't going to stop me.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I brought the McCormick to you. I brought that high end
Yeah.
McCormick over to you.
That's true. So I pour McCormick in his coffee. He go nutso immediately. He's bouncing off the walls. He's like, let's go strip club. We go to the strip club with this guy. And
Yeah,
we've been to the
holy
strip club with a
smokes.
few of our lawyers, but this was nuts. This is the funnest relapse I've ever been
Our
a
life,
part of.
yeah, our life felt like a movie. It truly was like our life was a movie. It was crazy.
It was a movie.
Yeah, and we're not big. We don't even care about like the tits and ass and stuff. It's just honestly, it's the atmosphere. That's
We
so
love the
intoxicating.
atmosphere.
Love the atmosphere. We're not big tits and ass guys. We want more of an emotional connection than anything. But that was what's so cool. Charlie frequented. They were so happy Charlie was back that it was like we got to actually hang out with these people and make some really good friends.
Yeah. People ask me when I sit down at the bar, you a tits or ass man? Me will always say, we're atmosphere guys.
I mean, can you blame us? We're living in the 21st century.
And
Right.
we partied a little too hard, and he did end up in the loony bin because he partied so hard.
By loony
He
bin,
bonked his head.
yeah, he is in state mandated rehab because of some other things that transpired after we left the strip club.
But I don't
Right.
think he's gonna be that mad. Watching him go back to booze was like watching MJ leave baseball and go back to basketball.
Yeah, that is so smart, Pat. That's exactly what it was like. And I just feel like he really can't deny the fact that he had like the time of his life with us. So why would he be mad? And also, this
He
was
sang
green
that at
apple
karaoke.
vodka. This was green apple vodka. It's not like he didn't taste it, in his coffee and his water.
He's an adult.
This was green apple vodka. It was like, oh, hey, here's a prank. But it was like one sip and he started chugging. But
By the
apparently,
sixth cup, he didn't. You think someone would ask? By
yeah.
the sixth cup.
So, yeah, it was a prank. Yeah. But here's the good news is we don't know whether or not doesn't want to be our lawyer. We would love, Charlie, if you're listening to this, we would love for you to still represent us. But we have some current suits, as you know, and we are in a lot of legal trouble. So we did get a new lawyer, just for now, a little interim lawyer, and he knows that. We're very transparent with them. But Pat, you want to introduce him? They might know him as Paul, right?
Yeah, he was on a show. I didn't even know what the show was.
Oh, if you
guess it's
know the
called-
show, you know him.
It's the Wonder Years. He played Paul Pfeiffer on the Wonder Years.
That's
His name's
right.
Josh Saviano. We haven't had the best luck with celebrity lawyers so far, but we're thinking third time's the charm.
It's crazy because every time that whenever you see a celebrity in real life, you're starstruck. You don't know how to talk to them, how to approach them, all that stuff. But when they're a lawyer, you can just call them up and say, "Hey, I need representation," and
They have
you're
to hang
set a
out
time.
with you.
They have to hang out with you. It's amazing. So yeah, it's like we're building this list of like really cool friends that are also lawyers that some of us, are mad at us right now and have some lawsuits against us. But at the same time, we have one very good friend of ours that's in state mandated rehab. And we have another new friend of ours that is going to represent us in the meantime. And he lets us call him by his character's name, Paul.
Paul. I'm going to have to watch the Wonder Years.
Yeah. Oh, I love that show. I love it, but have not seen the new one. Can't speak for that. But anyways, back to Drop Dead Fred. So, big reveal. Turns out Warner Brothers, the two of them, have their greedy ass hands around the necks of all of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, big surprise, but and by big surprise I mean no surprise at all. if you look at what Warner Brothers has put out, and if you look at the movies that Warner Brothers has purposely sunk in the last several years. So we'll cover this more as we go along, but for now,
it is a through line of the season. There's all these bad actors that come in and out of our little narrative where webbing
yep.
out. You can really web a yarn.
Yeah. And we're webbing
You can really
yarn,
yarn
and that's
it.
what we're doing.
You can
So, Pat,
really
with-
spin a tail.
Yeah, Pat.
Spin.
So let's talk about Drop Dead Fred. I mean, this movie was so chock full of moments that had me crying, had you wetting your corduroys with another layer of your primo piss. But yeah, let's start with the scene that made you cry or left you speechless. What was one that really got you there?
The scene that left me speechless was when they're playing with all that horse shit on the table. And they're smushing all that horse shit into the table. And then it's like literally like a horse's ass dump. And
They're making a mud pie.
They're making a big mud pie. And I was like, Lizzie's mom is going to be so pissed. And she is not going to take the Drop Dead Fred excuse this time, Missy. I was speechless. What about you, Will?
Oh, man, that scene was so tragic because, an improver alert, that's the last that Elizabeth or Lizzie saw of Drop Dead Fred until she was a grown-up. But, there was a couple for me. But I will say that the biggest one for me is when Drop Dead Fred literally sinks Elizabeth, like one and only real friend, Janny, who was played by Carrie Fisher, sinks her house into the river. All of it, with all of her worldly possessions, everything she's ever loved, owned. God,
I loved that. I hated that character. That was the one cool thing Drop Dead Fred did.
See, that's your interpretation, but for me, that was tragic. And, there's a couple ways you can view it, but to me, it really felt like it was Lizzie lashing out on anybody that was willing to help her. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it really wasn't Fred. It was Lizzie all along.
That's not necessarily true, but it very well could be.
Depends on how you see the movie. Did I burn down John Evans Middle School? Or did Girdle?
Well, nothing's been proven, right?
I am innocent until proven guilty. You are correct.
That's right. All right, Pat. And what was your God tier scene?
My God tier scene, probably similar to yours, I bet. We had the same one. It comes fairly early in the movie. Friggin' Drop Dead Fred just cut off Elizabeth's hair when she's an adult. She's staying on the boat, and freaking Carrie Fisher's boyfriend is there, and he says imaginary friends. I never had those. Just wet dreams.
Just wet dreams. Oh my God, yes.
Slay
Amazing.
King.
Yeah,
Slay
this man.
King. My favorite
This
scene.
man just pumped Carrie Fisher full of jizz. He just
Oh my
pumped her. Cream pie
goodness.
central. He just did something nasty on that boat. And so nasty that he was up and at him in the morning.
He made
ready
that
for his board
bitch
meeting.
seasick. He got up in them guts. He got up in that starboard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Up in that starboard. For me, the God
that what
tier
it is?
scene was it was when the final part of the movie when Elizabeth and her mom finally come to a head, and Elizabeth takes ownership over her relationship with her mom and saying, like, you can't be a bully to me anymore. You treat me like an enemy, and I just want to be treated like your daughter. And her mom says, you can't leave or I'll be alone. And so Elizabeth goes back, hugs her, gives her a kiss on the cheek, but still leaves. And that was a beautiful message of, you don't own me, and your power doesn't keep people in your life.
Hey Siri, play Miss Independence.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh, well, that didn't work.
Absolutely beautiful. All right, Pat, now it's our least favorite part, and this is, this I will say that I truly feel bad for all of the critics of this movie, because anybody that gave this movie a bad review obviously doesn't have the mental capacity to be smart enough to understand it. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so Alan Rocks from FilmNet USA, Alan Rocks wrote, besides a few moments where the writers stumbled upon a lucky line that happened to work, Drop Dead Fred is easily the most brainless film I have ever seen in my entire life.
This fucking idiot. This guy can't see the forest for the trees. Look, Alan, nothing about you rocks, you motherfucker. FilmNet USA? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Alan, sorry to say this, but I think you might have been dropped as a baby several times on purpose. I think that you are so stupid.
Your parents
that,
hated you. The second you were born, your parents hated you. You were so ugly, they dropped you on purpose.
I think your umbilical cord was wrapped around your neck for way too long. They had to do an emergency cesarean section on your wonderful mother, who never wanted you in the first place, and because you were suffocating to death. And sorry that you got a job as a critic, but it kind of makes sense because you're a sheep.
The only thing brainless here is you. Roasted next.
Roasted. Okay, we have Cyrus Cantman from Big Film Hub. Cyrus Cantman from Big Film Hub wrote, that any of it, however, should suddenly melodramatically lead to Elizabeth learning to assert herself is, to say the least, unpersuasive. Is that the most backwards ass question or sentence you've ever heard in your entire life?
It's so funny how none of these guys can write. I can't, man. And Cyrus Cantman, I am going to can your organs when I
Cyrus,
find you.
Have you ever seen a chum bucket? You ever seen, during Shark Week on Discovery Channel, you ever see the bucket of chum they throw out to get the sharks? Cyrus, I would love to see the top half of your body crawling around a ship deck while I'm throwing your guts into the ocean, and you're just in shock watching me do that. That's what I want, because of what you wrote specifically here. Because what you wrote hurts me and my feelings so much, I want you to suffer terribly, horribly. I want you to suffer more than anybody I've ever wished suffering on, ever. I want you crucified.
And guess what? While Will's throwing your guts off deck and you're crawling around without your legs, I'm going to be showing Polaroids to you of me having sex with your wife. That'll be the last thing you see.
And Cyrus, what's really sad about that is that it was your wife actually reached out to Patrick first. And that's what he's going to be explaining to you when he shows Polaroids to you, is that your wife actually has been feeling stuck in that marriage for longer than you could possibly count. But your manipulation tactics and how toxic you are of a person has kept her feeling stuck in that relationship, and Patrick was her final piece of freedom. So we're
And
all just
T-Rex
going to
in
be
the chat, you're saying
celebrating.
he's going to be in shock. He's not going to be able to absorb any of that information.
T-Rex, seriously, shut the fuck up. All right, T-Rex, shut
We
the
are
fuck
sick
up.
of your
okay?
shit. We will have a medical staff on hand tending to him to keep him awake and aware so we can explain all this to him while Will throws his lower half guts out of the boat.
Yeah, and we're going to get rid of his vocal cords because I don't like screaming. I think it's too sad. I don't want to hear any of it.
Yeah, we're going to tape his vocal cords out, and we're just going to remove his mouth.
We're going to remove your mouth. Sorry. And that you
Roasted.
know, that's just roasted. Done. I mean, if you haven't seen Drop Dead Fred, do yourself a favor. Watch this movie from the perspective of how it was supposed to be written, and that's as a drama, as a psychological plea, as one of the best films. This is objectively speaking one of the best films ever written, and subjectively speaking, the greatest film ever written. And don't listen
It
to
is
these
Will's
critics.
favorite movie. It's in my top 10. And there's so many things. This movie has such depth to it that we could probably do an entire season on this movie alone. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry if I kind of freaked out this episode. It's kind of a trauma response I have to this movie.
This
That
was
may or
hard.
may not be
Yeah,
about trauma responses.
you know, Patrick, I just really want to commend you for your bravery with this one, and you being so open to talk about Girdle and all of the things that Girdle would make you do, such as make you ejaculate on all of the new iMac computers at John Evans Middle School, and make you have sex with those dodgeballs.
Mr. Barrett was so pissed that I came on all those.
Well, tune in next week while we cover another episode and we dive deeper into who's controlling Hollywood in an industry
Movie boys.
meant for the arts.
Movie boys.
Certified Cinephiles.